Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be reviewing the new Nars eyeshadow quads. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright, so these are the new Nars eyeshadow quads. These are available now on their website. I think they will be available soon at Sephora. These are the newest additions to the Laguna collection. So these new additions are two eyeshadow quads that retail for $49 each, and there was a tinted afterglow lip balm for $28. I did not pick up the lip balm, but I did pick up both palettes and we're going to try them both out today. So these are definitely not going to be unique sort of palettes, but given that Nars is a brand that I really like to cover on my channel, I thought let's just go for it. So this first quad is the Laguna quad, and this is the lighter of the two. These do have a 12-month shelf life and are made in Canada. And this packaging is just really pretty as well. I really do love this packaging. And then opening this one up, just a very, very basic neutral brown eyeshadow palette. Very, very pretty though. And I will say, given that it is $49, it is very expensive for 4 shades. But one thing I wanted to think about is the pricing is very comparable to the Charlotte Tilbury quads, and you actually get a lot more product in here if you compare the two. So I have a Charlotte Tilbury quad here and a Nars quad here. You do get quite a bit more product in the Nars, so that's just something to note. While they are super expensive, they're still a better value than the Charlotte Tilbury, but I think this quad is really, really pretty. The other quad in this collection is the Laguna Sunset quad, so definitely pulling much more reddish orange, like a sunset. Very, very pretty packaging. And then opening this up, this one is definitely the deeper of the two. This one also has a pink in here, and this palette is all shimmery shades. So just something to note if you're not into that. So let's get to putting these on the eyes, and then I will do some comparisons. So I have already primed and powdered my eyes. Let's start with the Laguna quad. So I think I'm going to do this one on this side. So in this quad, they're labeled super basic. It's literally Laguna 1, Laguna 2, Laguna 3, and Laguna 4. So nothing crazy with the naming conventions, but I will say this one here is a matte, and then these two shades here are satin shades, and then we have a really beautiful shimmer here. I think I'm going to start with this first satiny shade, and I'm going to put that one all through the crease. So I really fell in love with Nars eyeshadow formula last year. I fell in love with their light reflecting foundation, and then I decided I also wanted to play with their eyeshadows a lot more as well. Okay, this shade is definitely coming off a little warmer than I anticipated, but I'm not mad at that. I think I'm just going to take that matte shade, and I'm going to use this one to build the crease even a little bit more. So like I was saying, I fell in love with their light reflecting foundation last year, and then I ended up picking up their summer unrated palette, and I absolutely fell in love with it. Just the formula, the blendability, how wearable they are. I just fell in love. And since that time, I've been reviewing their new eyeshadows, and so far this palette definitely seems on par with their other formulas. So I'm going to go into this deepest one here. This is still a satin, but it is the deeper of the four. I'm just going to use this one on the outer corner. This is really pretty. I do think these are maybe a little bit more on the shimmer heavy side than I would personally like. I think I would have preferred a lot more mattes, but I do think this is really pretty. I'm just going in with that crease brush just to kind of diffuse everything. I do love the way they're just kind of blending all together. Okay, I'm going to take that first shimmer shade right here. I'm going to take it on a finger and just pop that all over the eyelid. That's very pretty. Just going in with a wet brush to give a little bit more impact. I'm finding this shade to be very, very light. And I'm getting a little bit of fallout now that I'm going in with a brush. Okay, so here is the final look with the first Laguna palette. I really like it. Again, nothing special, nothing revolutionary, but definitely wearable for every day. I really enjoyed the formula. I think it's up to par with their usual shades. I will say this one seemed a little bit drier than I'm used to. It feels smooth enough when you swatch it, but I really had to work to get any impact. out of that shade. Maybe that's on purpose so that it is a little bit more wearable. I just like a little bit more punch, but other than that, I think this is a really nice little quad. Let's jump into the Laguna Sunset. And I will admit, this one has me a little bit nervous because again, these are all shimmer shades. I don't normally put shimmer in my crease. I know you can, there's no rule against it, but I just don't like to. But I guess I gotta work with what I have. So I'm gonna take this deeper shade here. I'm very, very carefully going to work it on the outer corner. So I'm really just kind of creating that shape on the outer corner. That doesn't look too bad at all. That blended out actually quite well. I have like a couple of tiny glitters here on the bottom, but nothing crazy at all. I was definitely expecting much worse. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab this shade right here since that brown worked out better than I expected. And I'm going to try to fan this one into the inner corner a little bit. Okay, that's actually working quite well, and that's something I'm definitely going to credit to the Nars formula. I'm very pleased with how that turned out. I was very anxious about putting shimmers in my crease, but that worked out very, very well. I'm very impressed. I'm gonna grab a bit of this pinky red shade. I'm just gonna grab a bit of that with a finger and pop it right on the outer half. Then I'm gonna go back into this shade on a finger and then push this one more toward the inner corner. And that kind of took away some of the initial pink on me. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more of that initial pink shade. Finally, I'm just grabbing this last shade right here for the inner corner. This look definitely didn't turn out how I intended, but that's okay. I think I just want to add a little bit to this corner as well. Let me pop off camera. I'm going to finish up this eye with some mascara and then I will be right back with some comparisons. So here is the final look with the Nars Laguna Sunset Quad. It's not my favorite. I kind of knew it wouldn't be. I just don't tend to do a lot of all shimmer looks, so I just kind of had a feeling, but I still want to look at comparisons. So first up, let's look at the Laguna Quad. So this one is just a very, very basic neutral quad. You don't get much more neutral than this. I think it's very pretty. You're going to get a very wearable everyday look with this. Super simple, super easy to wear. I did do a comparison with the Summer Unrated palette. So the Summer Unrated palette does pull a little bit more pink and you obviously get a lot more shades. But when you look at this very first column on the Summer Unrated palette, there's a lot of similarities there. I'll pop up a photo as well. So this one does end up pulling a little bit more neutral, but I will say the Champagne Shimmer in the Summer Unrated palette is much stronger than in this quad. I would say that champagne shade is the weak point of this quad. I think it's pretty, it's just that I really had to work to get the impact that I did. If you don't mind a lot less, or if you want to use it just as a topper, I think that you might not mind this. I just think that is kind of the weak point of the quad overall. And then I also wanted to look at the most recent eyeshadow launch, which is the Orgasm Rising, and this one again very, very similar. This one does pull a bit more pink, but again that champagne shimmer much stronger, but overall the browns are still very similar and it's going to give you a very, very similar look. And you can see from the swatches I was able to get quite close. They're not identical, but I was able to very, very closely match the vibe. Moving into the Laguna Sunset Quad. So this is the one that I thought was going to be a little bit more unique just because it is all shimmer, but I did compare it to the Orgasm Rising palette and we got very, very close with those two pink shades. The champagne shade, very, very close. And while the shades that I found in here are not identical, I think the vibe that I found is so similar that you really don't need this one if you already have this one. I would definitely not purchase both if I wasn't reviewing makeup. So that's just something to note. Obviously there is more mattes in here and you might get a more softer effect, but it's kind of nicer and I do think this one performs just a little bit better. I did struggle a little bit with using an all shimmer quad. And same with the Summer Unrated palette. If you have Summer Unrated, you really do not need the Laguna Sunset. I was able to come even closer to duping this palette with this one. And you can even just sort of see them side by side. Those pinks very similar, that champagne shade very similar. I wasn't able to get a perfect match for these two sort of brownie shades, but I was able to get close enough. So I do think if you either have Summer Unrated or Orgasm Rising, these two new quads are really unnecessary. Between the two, I think the Laguna quad is my favorite. Again, it's just like a very neutral, wearable, everyday palette. Something super easy and simple to reach for. The formula is great. Again, I do think that that champagne shimmer is the weaker point, but overall, I do think the quality is great, and I think it is really pretty. Again, just super wearable and easy to reach for. The Laguna Sunset is one that I probably could have passed on. I do think the more lighter shimmer in here is definitely stronger than the first palette, but I also I'm not going to reach for a full shimmer palette very often, so I probably could have passed on this. I was quite impressed with how well I was able to use this to deepen the outer corner and really create some structure there. I was quite impressed with that, and I think that that is attributed to the Nars formula. I think they have a phenomenal eyeshadow formula. I really, really do. So this is the one I probably would have passed on, but it's still great quality. I think these are really pretty quads if you were thinking of picking them up, if you were kind of looking at them. Just double check if you have Summer Unrated or Orgasm Rising. You probably can safely pass on these, but if you just like to pick up the new ones, if you like to collect them, maybe you would enjoy these. I do recommend Laguna over Laguna Sunset, but that's just my preference. I would also say wait for a sale. You know, I have a hard time recommending anybody pay $49 for 4 shades. I say the exact same thing about the Charlotte Tilbury quads. I think they're beautiful. I think they're great quality, but I cannot recommend $40, $50 for 4 eyeshadow shades. I just think it's really difficult for me to do. So I think these are great. If you've been eyeing them up, you might really enjoy them. Just wait for a sale, whether it be the Sephora sale or the Nars sale on their website. Their website actually does have some pretty decent sales sometimes, so I would wait for that. So overall, great quality, but wait for a sale. And that is it for me today. Let me know down below if you're planning to pick these up, or did they have you curious? Let me know. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!